When Dr. Kathleen Reardon graduated with a PhD in communication studies from her university, she never thought she would be communicating about gifts, specifically gifts given by businessmen around the world. But a study she did on that subject has become a business bestseller. What kind of gifts do you give to European, Far Eastern, and Latin executives? And also, what gifts shouldn't you give? The right gift for the right person is the preoccupation of Richard Thalheimer. He parlayed a $100 mail order ad, listen to this, into a $60 million a year catalog business in just 6 years. It's called the sharper image. His secret, he says, you find something people want, advertise it in a small way, show a profit, then do it in a big way. Pretty simple formula to follow, but did it come that easy for you?
Well, actually, it almost did. It's amazing that, at least in my area, things just exploded.
And it was knowing the right product and the timing for it that people would want it?
Well, we have lived through an age, especially in electronics, where products have changed so quickly that if you can catch the market at the right time, it's like getting on a wave and you just can source to success. And
that product that started you all off was a wristwatch.
That's exactly what it was, a small electronic digital wristwatch. In fact, I'm wearing one of the latest versions today. This one has a calculator on it that you just touch the glass and the numbers change as you touch them.
And you know what I'm thinking? If you were to give something similar or like a clock in China, Kathleen, you'd be in trouble.
Absolutely the wrong gift. Right. The sound of the word clock in Chinese is the same as the sound for the pre-funeral visit to the dying. And so it implies the termination of the relationship. If you give it as a wedding gift, you'll never be forgiven.
And also probably why you shouldn't give anything sort of in the colors of what, black, because it connotes funeral or...
Black, and in Latin America, purple has the bad connotations, and red roses, for example, in Germany are inappropriate because they're reserved for lovers. There's a great many colors and numbers, too. The number 4 and the number 9 in Japan. 4 is associated with death and 9 with pain.
Let's take a look at some of the things you brought in just to sort of remind us what you wouldn't give or what you might possibly give. And I was amused to see a bottle of Johnny Walker.
Yeah, in this study that I did, I found that one of the best gifts in Japan is a scotch. A bottle of Johnny Walker Black Label in particular would be an excellent gift.
Now, why is that? Are the Japanese into labels?
Well, that's perhaps one of the reasons, because they are very conscious of labels. In fact, I was reading recently about an incident where they found that the Japanese are starting to turn their ties around so they can see the brand names on the labels on their ties.
Which might be considered a bit tacky here.
Perhaps, but we're brand conscious too. We just don't turn our ties around, but we're very brand conscious in this country as well.
When you were selecting gifts for your catalog, which is the basis of your business, do you think about brand names? What is the key?
Well, first, I try and look for something that is totally new, that the world hasn't seen before. Or if it is something people have seen before, they at least haven't seen it in America. So as you were talking, I was just asking myself, I wonder if the reason maybe some of my products don't violate those rules is because they're new technology and those customs haven't developed as far. For example, a wristwatch that combined a clock and a calculator, would that violate that rule or not?
It probably would. That's a touchy one. Why not just avoid it would be my suggestion, and give one of the other gifts that your catalog contains.
When in doubt, don't.
Right, when in doubt, be conservative.
Let's take a look at some of Richard's gifts, and you might even say whether you think that they would be, in fact, appropriate.
Well, this looks like a duck, and it quacks like a duck, but actually it's a telephone. When it rings, it quacks. And I was just wondering, there might be some societies where the duck has a special meaning.
Well, I haven't come across any duck meanings yet, Richard.
In America, the duck phone is a very nice gift.
Would you think that would be mostly appealing to sportsmen or everyone?
Well, sportsmen certainly are the ones who would buy a duck phone first, but people are impressed, as with many of the sharper image gifts, by the novelty of it, just something different.
Is that why perhaps this little, is it a robot?
This is a little robot arm that lets you simulate the actions of a factory robot.
Now, Richard, why would anybody want that? Don't take that the wrong way.
Well, people say that about a lot of sharper image gifts. They say, why would somebody want a $150 television that looks like a transistor radio?
That one I could understand.
Yeah?
I could say something here that might help a little, is that I have, in my study, I learned about gadgeteers. There are millions of gadgeteers out there, and Richard's gifts are definitely those.
These are Mouseketeers grown-up gadgeteers?
Yes, they are.
So that people want something that has that kind of novel, but also kind of a gadget to work with.
When you're working hard all day in your office, there's nothing better than being able to turn on a little robot or have something walk across your desk, and there's many executives who wouldn't want to admit to that, but it's a very good gift.
And this is something, though, I can understand. I think this is quite practical, actually.
This is the ultimate gadgeteer's gadget. It's called a sleeper beeper. It looks like a hearing aid, and you put it behind your ear, and that beeping that you hear is activated when I tilt my head forward. So it keeps me awake in a car when I'm driving late at night after that hard day at the office.
I want to come back to some of the philosophy of giving, but Richard, just because I'm so intrigued, let me ask you, now, to have a success in your business, how many mailings do you have to send out
It's amazing.
each year?
We send out 50 million catalogs a year, which is about 4 million catalogs every month.
And what kind of answers do you get? What proportion?
Amazingly, only about 2 people of every 100 that receive a catalog of ours buy something. So that means the 98 presumably throw it away or hit the wastebasket. Actually, I'm sure another 15 or 20 look at it. But out of the 100, only 15 or 20 at most actually see it. The 2 out of the 100, thankfully, order something. They call our toll-free numbers, and we send out the product.
What do you do? I've gotten catalogs, and I must tell you, I've gotten so skeptical because I got something that broke and they wouldn't replace it at all.
Well, I started my business, and one reason I think we've been successful with the approach that for a mail order to be successful, you have to have confidence in the company. And I think it's not how you sell something that determines the quality of the company, but rather how you deal with the problem when it arises. And I truly believe this. So we make an effort to just bend over backwards, as any reputable company does, to make sure you're happy when that happens.
What advice to people who might be having trouble?
Well, the first thing is to buy from a company that is reputable. And you can tell by the quality of the paper, by how often they mail you. You can tell the good ones from the sort of fly-by-night or schlock-your outfits.
What other guidelines?
And then once you do ever have a problem, writing the Better Business Bureau or the Direct Marketing Association in New York City, either one of those two, your Better Business Bureaus in your own home city, and every one, they get immediate results, I think. And when we get a letter, of course, that's the first thing we want to make sure that we're satisfying everybody, but the ones who have a problem that are registered with an agency, the squeaky wheel always gets the first grease, I think.
What about other gifts that would be appropriate or inappropriate in different countries?
Well, we have some here, Panchita. When I was studying these, I found that often Americans give inappropriate gifts, and the Parker Pen Company that sponsored this study, they told me go out and find some experts, see if we're doing this right. So I found that in some occasions we do it very poorly. For example, in Latin America, if you give this wonderful Swiss Army knife, it implies cutting off the relationship. And these handkerchiefs here mean that you wish the recipient tears. So they'll have to give you about $1.50 back in order to offset the negative implications of that. Some of the gifts, this is one of the more universal gifts.
It's a beautiful book.
It's a beautiful book of photos of New York City, and it fits the other criteria of gifts too, in that it's distinctively American because it's about New York City. It's useful. It will be out on somebody's table, constantly reminding the recipient that you gave it to them, and it has conversation value, and that's very important too in a gift.
You also, I suppose, have to be really aware of the subtleties of different countries. Like in an Arab world, you would not give a gift to the wife of perhaps your business associate.
Yes, some businessmen forget that you should not even mention the wife. You shouldn't bring her up. In our country, we have the picture of the wife on the desk, and we discuss the family. But in the Arab countries, you really should not even ask, how is she? If you are introduced to her, that's a compliment. Now, this is not true across the board, but for example, in Saudi Arabia, that would be the case. Men and women are kept separate. And another thing would be in Japan. If you wrap a gift inappropriate, now this is Japanese gift wrapping. And we put wrapping, something we buy, and we put a little plastic bow on it. Well, the quality of the bow tells the quality of the gift. And the color of the bow tells the type of gift. And then you have to have the name of the person giving it and what type of gift. And there's always a no-shi here, which is the Japanese sign that this is the gift. And it should be presented with 2 hands.
Do you think that sometimes Americans, I don't know, because we're so proud of so many of the things made in America that we tend to almost offer them in that way, ours is best?
Yeah, we have to be careful about that. It is true that for example, in Latin America, if you give some appliances, kitchen appliances, or electronic toys for children, they'll be very appreciated. But you shouldn't give them in a way that indicates, well, our products are superior to yours, but rather I thought that this was something that you might like. And if it is run by batteries, you must remember to include the batteries. That's one of the things.
The best gift you've ever gotten, Richard?
Well, my favorite, and we put it in our catalog every year, is a suit of armor replica made in Spain. And I don't know if that would offend anyone, but I was thrilled to get a life-size suit of armor that I could put in my house, and we put it in our catalog now.
I think that's, in an interesting way, one of the keys to your success. You put in your catalog the things that you like.
Exactly.
And test them and see if they work, and then you know probably other people will.
That would probably signify battle to someone.
I didn't have time to ask you.
You can run into a little trouble going by your own taste, however. You have good taste, probably. But
it could be a problem. The taste right now says you've got to go. Thank you both for joining us.
Thank you.
Fascinating study. It does say to us, think a little bit when you're giving a gift. And I suppose that's true for America, too. We're going to be right back. Stay with us. That's all we have time for today. Thank you for joining us. Thank you both for joining us, bringing in your ideas and your thoughts about gift giving. We will see you again soon. I'm Conchita Pierce. This is Today in New York. Have a good gift. Have a good gift. You know I want to say have a good today.